A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are watching us from. On behalf of the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement and the Water Policy Center, it gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished speakers, chair, and participants who have joined this session. To chair this session, we have Dr. Lila Nyaichyai with us today. It's my great pleasure to introduce the chair. Dr. Lila Nyaichyai is an assistant professor with Tribhuvan University, Nepal. She is currently working as member of China Desk for Center of Nepalese and Asian Studies. She completed her PhD in International Studies. Her research areas include public diplomacy, soft power, political and social fields. She has extensively contributed opinion articles in Nepalese newspaper. Without extending further, let me request Dr. Lila Nyaichyai to take charge of the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome once again in this session 12. I think all the presenters have 15 minutes, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. So first, I would like to request the presenter to be stick on your time. And secondly, all the participants, if you have any questions to particular presenter, please write down your questions in the chat box, mentioning the name as well, if you want to ask to particular presenter. And if it's your general question, then you also can write your questions. Allow me to make you ring the bell. I mean, make you notify about before 1 minute, before completing your presentation, before 15 minutes. So as per request of the Mr. Dr. Rakesh earlier, we are now starting by the second presenter, Sunil Mishra. He's a student from the Department of International Relations at Tribhuvan University, Nepal. And his topic of presentation is Belt and Road Initiative, a comparison on soft power-based economic diplomacy employed with partner countries. So it's the floor is yours, Mr. Sunil Mishra, please. Hello.
Dr. Sunil Mishra.
Are you there?
Yes, sorry, ma'am. There was some technical error, so I lost the connection.
Okay.
Is it okay to begin now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to share my slide.
Shall we do it or you are doing?
I am doing, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good.
My slide is visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Namaste and good morning to everyone. I am very grateful to NICE as well as Water Policy Center India for providing me such a great opportunity to be one of the presenters, young presenter in this NICE and WPC conference 2020. So I am Sunil Mishra and I am currently taking my Masters in International Relations and Diplomacy from Tribhuvan University. And firstly, I would like to express my sincere thankfulness to NICE as well as WPC. And good morning, Dr. Lila, my fellow presenters, and to all the audience who have been watching us live. So my title of presentation is Belt and Road Initiative, a comparison on soft power-based economic diplomacy employed with partner countries. So I will be just dealing with what sort of economic diplomacy has been implied by China to carry on BRI with partner countries, and what are the challenges that has been faced and why those challenges come in across. So it is a paper that I worked on last year while I was a research fellow in Sichuan University, China. So I want to begin. Okay. So the outline of my presentation will be introduction, objectives, methodology, limitations, discussion, challenges, and conclusion. So going to introduction, as we all know that Chinese President Xi Jinping has initiated BRI, during his visits to Kazakhstan and Indonesia in October 2013. So we all are familiar with BRI. That BRI is a broad concept, and it incorporates many more countries in the days to come. So what Xi Jinping stated is that construction of Silk Road economic belt and maritime Silk Road of 21st century, or we call it as Belt and Road Initiative in common. So why he came up with these ideas is to connect, to build up better connectedness among the countries in Asia, as well as to interconnect the countries across Africa, as well as in Europe. So key areas of cooperation includes policy connectivity, facilities connectivity, trade connectivity, financial connectivity, and people-to-people connectivity by taking pillars of 6 economic corridors and 9 routes, which targets to connect 3 continents in the globe. Talking about soft power, Dr. Joseph Nye talks about soft power as it's a co-optive power. It rests on the ability to shape the preferences of others by attraction rather than coercion. So he talks about in his book Soft Power that soft power is an ability to make A to do B something that B would not do else. So China's new Silk Road initiatives are likely to be China's landmark economic diplomacy act with profound long-term implications for both China and its neighboring countries. So China has a huge aim to carry on BRI so that China could have a footprint on other countries, and the economic greatness that China has achieved in these 20 years is a key for China's coming up with great ideas. So the objectives for my research paper was to investigate the soft power-based economic diplomacy implied by China with BRI partner countries. So what sort of economic-based diplomacy China has been practices, and what tools of soft power is in practice by China. So basically, I would say that the scholarship that I achieved, it was BRI scholarship. So it is also a soft power that has been applied by China. Another objective was to just compare the economic diplomacy practices that China has been practicing with countries in Asia, Europe, and Africa, to examine the challenges faced with various partner countries. So methodology was just basically I went through the existing literatures and behavioral and theoretical review of existing literatures, thorough and study of accomplished as underlying projects. So my research was totally based on the existing materials. So I collected data from secondary sources such as journals, books, and newspaper articles. It is just a qualitative research and descriptive research. Key terminologies used on search engine are soft power, economic diplomacy, and PRI. So as I already mentioned that I was solely dependent on the secondary literatures, secondary resources. So there are some limitations for my research paper. It's thorough discussion based on the sources available. No in-depth study has been carried out because of the limited resources, and comparison based on the secondary sources. So I'm not going here to put forth my own ideas, rather than I'm not going to come up with primary ideas, but all the data that I have incorporated here are secondary sources, from secondary sources, strictly guided by the objective of the research. So I'm solely guided by the objectives of my research in this paper. Moving to discussion, which is the main part of my today's presentation, is while we are going talking about it's a mega project and there are so many things going on in these days, there are some similar practices that China is implying with all the partner countries so that it can leave a good remark. Some of them are like infrastructure development. We all know that China has been working with many partner countries to build on better connectivity. So some examples come here for like Gwadar Port, Eurasian Land Bridge, Karakoram Highway, Chengdu Europe Railway. And regarding energy cooperation, China is working mostly with the South Asian countries. So we have 756 kV Butwal Man-Nagar transmission line, which is between Nepal and China. China is working on this, and in the same way, we have Namao hydropower in Laos project. So There are other similar practices that has been incorporated, such as trade cooperation under 6 economic corridors. So China is solely working on this so that we could have a better and strong trade cooperation within the partner countries. So of course, policy coordination, China is working a lot to have a better policy coordination in the partner countries so that we can all reap the benefit of BRI. People to people connectivity. Without have a proper people to people connectivity, no one is going to benefit from this project, multi-sectoral project. So China is working with all the partner countries to make a better and good people to people connectivity by involving individuals and involving leaders, involving all other individuals who come across the way. But at the same time, there has been some similar, dissimilar practices that has been implied by China, and which is the biggest question that has been raised by other nations. So, firstly comes banking cooperation in Nigeria. It has been widely accepted in Nigeria and by Nigerian people, but the cooperation of China in banking sector with Nigeria is highly questioned by other states. And social cooperation. Talking about social cooperation is although a part of good practices, but in some areas it has been observed that China is building schools, China is building hospitals, and China is doing a lot of things in social sector. So it has been also questioned that why China is doing such activities only with some countries, not with all its partner countries. And of course, here comes military base in Djibouti. China claims that the military base of Chinese army in Djibouti is to provide security to its nationals who are working, who are based in Djibouti. But internationally, it has been confronted, and many of the scholars, as well as many countries across the globe, believe that China is trying to spread its military wings across the globe, and China wants its military presence in Africa. That's why it is establishing its military base in Djibouti. So, special relation with some partner countries, example Pakistan, and we all are very much familiar with the special relationship that China and Pakistan are having, which comes under CPAC. So during my research, there are some challenges that I found it. So the first challenge is governance, contested politically, legally, and academically. Trade and fiscal dispute arising among Chinese and Pakistani enterprises and businesses. So we all know that all BRI is a widely accepted concept, but there it has been contested politically, legally, and academically. And although China and Pakistan are working a lot to build a stronger network in trade and finance, but there are some Chinese and Pakistani enterprises and who come across as a dispute in the middle. So security, both internal and external, suicide bombing, attack, terrorist attack, kidnapping, etc., has been observed in Pakistan and in many more countries where Chinese has been had to go through a really bad situation. So it is also one of the problem which might hinder the outcomes of BRI. Economic debt, Haman Tata Port, extremely large projects can lead to the threat of public debt. So Haman Tata Port of Sri Lanka is taken an example here, because while going with larger ambitions, it's always smart to look at our financing. So it has been believed by several scholars that in the days to come, the countries that are not financially strong, not economically sound, might have to bear public debt, and that economic debt could lead to a huge crisis in the days to come. Others, India's concern about sovereignty and territorial integrity. We all are quite familiar with this, that India is very much concerned about its sovereignty and territorial integrity, because the CPAC of China and Pakistan passes through a disputed region, Kashmir, and India has a huge stand in this part. China's deepening relationship with other countries such as Nepal, Bangladesh, etc. So the deepening relationship of China with other SAARC nations is also a big burden to India, because India believes that its presence in South Asia should not be hampered in any manner. So South China Sea dispute, we all are quite familiar with this. Mistrust regarding China and Chinese thoughts, economic overdependence. So if China is investing a huge amount of in any part of the country in the world, so that creates economic over dependence, and we all are very much aware that in the long run, over dependence on economy of a third country would be really a bad situation. So low bargaining power of China compared to other European and American countries. So we all are very familiar that there are various regions which leads to low bargaining power of China compared to other states. So coming to my conclusion, I would say that BRI is a mega project which is aimed to provide mutual benefit to all the partner countries, uh, uh, and China should pursue economic diplomacy based on the soft power to overcome the challenges faced. So what I have observed is that China is doing a lot to move on with BRI very smoothly, but the different practices that China has been employed with other countries and is a big hindrance for China. And because of that dissimilar practices, China is always questioned. So China should pursue economic diplomacy based on its soft power in a way so that it can reap the benefit of BRI, and all the partner countries can also trust China and move forward. So cooperation areas may vary according to the region and the partner country. So from this research, I came to know that yes, the China as well as the partner countries may have varied interest, and in that manner, cooperation can be different, but in mind, the framework of BRI should be always kept in mind. So the enhancement of geographical linkages through BRI will lead to well-connected, integrated regions of shared testimony, harmony, peace, and development. So yes, in the long run, BRI will be of great help to all the partner countries, and it will come up with great ideas in the days to come. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sunilji. You are
Thank you so much,
within the
ma'am.
limit of time and presented all of your. Yeah, of course, there are some sections which you could have very clearly written the subtitle. It would be more easy for the
Thank you
listeners
so much, ma'am.
and the viewers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now I would like to go for our second presenter, Vidyapati Purushottaman, PhD scholar. He is the PhD scholar, University of Science and Technology of China, and he is top in Health Silk Road. Mr. Vidyapati, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm here. Hope you could hear me too.
Yes. It's your turn now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I should thank Pramod Jaifar sir for this wonderful opportunity, and Nias and respected chair. I would like to take this opportunity to throw some lights on the global health diplomacy and the emerging dynamics of Health Silk Road. Ladies and gentlemen, we are actually in a time where we are realizing the importance of health. We everyone know that beyond the geopolitics and other factors, the health is becoming the highest priority now. And this present scenario, COVID, has made us to rethink about the mankind and to think about the common future of mankind. Today's presentation, I would like to focus in 3 parts. Firstly, I would like to discuss about the historical emergence of global health diplomacy, and then we'll discuss about the pandemic situation, where how China has reacted in the initial stage and what lessons can we learn from that kind of reaction on how it came out of pandemic. And thirdly, we'll attempt to analyze and understand what the post-pandemic global health situation will be. and it will be based on the present happenings and what will be the future of global health diplomacy and how it will further proceed. So having said that, would like to proceed to the history of the global health diplomacy of the as a first phase, where we all knew that before WHO has emerged, the League of Nations played a major role in addressing the health issues. When it was there, the League of Nations Health Office and the International Office of Public Health was some of the major organizations that address major issues of health and brought many countries into the platform to discuss about the common health issues and made them to think that health is not a issue that can be addressed singly or a nation on its own, but it's global. So this realization came after the 1821 to 1851 flu or cholera. So after that, these organizations played a vital role, which actually became a basis for creating the constitution of WHO in 1948. So further, many formulation has taken place and many articulations and upgradations has taken place, and this emerged to have a constant funding from the World Banks and also from other organizations, and it created regional actors like European Union. It made the regional actors to further read more about the health issues and also to have a policy making to address these health issues. The European Union played a major role because the major headquarters of health is situated in Geneva. From the time of Industrial Revolution, the major policy making was centered towards Europe. So this scenario we should keep in mind so that we will understand how this is going to further address what actually the global health system is going to change. Countries such as UK and other nations have formulated their policy. US has also formulated their policies and to address the global health situations and to formulate the global health diplomacy. In this case, quickly coming to the first part, end of the first part, would like to address that till now, these organizations and the regional organizations, WHO, are trying hard to establish an infrastructure for the modern healthcare system. And it's in a phase of development and is going in a constant phase of bringing countries into the table for negotiation and bringing the private parties into the place where they can supply what the countries need. The modern equipments were in high demand and also the education of the health staffs were increasing. When there is a need of the health infrastructure, there is a need of an electricity, constant electricity, and there is a need of a water supply. So these two are major needs where the health infrastructure is in demand, and this is going to play a vital role in future health development system of the countries around the world. During pandemic, China as an epidemic, when it was an epidemic in Wuhan, how China has addressed these issues. We could understand these kind of infrastructural barriers is not there in China. It laid out a constant plan and also built two new hospitals to address the issues in the initial stage, and also learn quickly to how to combine the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and the Western medicine to address the issues. So they also further promoted this to the world when time came. Beyond further criticism has kept about the origin of virus and other things, China continued to keep the face of promoting or supplies, medical supplies, and also sending their medical experts to countries around the world. During pandemic, we saw the withdrawal of US that also made an impact, but still it continued to support countries by sending their medical supplies. We could not leave out a single nation in order to address the pandemic like COVID-19. This is a time we should understand why nations to stand together in the time of crisis, regardless of what type of government they have. They should have a common, a fully understandable, a common system that comprises of common technology, and also have a common platform for the experts to discuss and to reach to the conclusion as quickly as possible. We lack, in the present scenario, we lack in all these kind
I think there is some problems with the internet. Oh, मेरा internet network ऐसा. Hello.
Some network issue. Can you ask him to join again?
Yes, I think it's a network issue. I think Mr. Presenter has lost his connections.
If he rejoins, we connect.
Shall we go for the next? Wait for him.
I think we should move to the next.
Yeah, we should move for the next one.
You count that?
Yes, of course. Yes, there is some problem in network to the Vidyapatiji. Now we would like to, when he come back, we will again give time for him. And I'd like to request another presenter, Mr. Mitra Bandhu Powder, to present his presentation. He is principal and doctoral candidate, Swiss Management Center, BRI, Financial Distress and Corporate Governments, a cross-country analysis. So I would like to request Mr. Mitra Bandhu Powder to present his presentation. Please, Mr. Mitra Bandhu Powder.
Thank you. Madam Chair, fellow presenters, distinguished participants, and ladies and gentlemen watching us from home and abroad, greetings from Kathmandu. The topic of the discussion today is Belt and Road Initiative, financial distress and corporate governance, a cross-country analysis. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Pramodji for giving me this opportunity. Philosophically, this qualitative study is epistemological in nature, which means it deals with how reality exists. The document review and the analysis method has been used for data analysis. The sources of data such as OECD, IMF, World Bank, Transparency International are considered for document review. The first speaker briefly talk about what BRI is. As a recapitulation, the combination of Economic Belt and the Maritime Silk Road is known as Belt and Road Initiative, which was previously known as One Belt, One Road, OBOR. This is the revival of the ancient and historical Silk Road in the modern form that spans across at least 68 countries. And the term financial distress here is a condition in which a company or individual cannot generate revenue or income because it is unable to meet or pay its financial obligation. This is generally due to high fixed cost, illiquid assets, or revenue sensitive to economic downturn. In this paper, debt distress is synonymously termed as financial distress. I will try to find the answers of two major questions here. Number one, to what extent China's BRI is a reality in terms of financial distress. And the next one is, what is the corporate governance practice in selected countries and their corruption perception index. Hardly et al. 2019 concludes that 8 countries are at particular risks of debt distress based on identified pipeline of projects lending associated with BRI. Those 8 countries are Djibouti, Maldives, Laos, Montenegro, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Pakistan. In addition to these countries, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka are also perceived to be problematic due to BRI. However, I'm going to explain 10 countries' situation here. First, Djibouti. China has provided approximately US $1.4 billion, equivalent to 75% of its GDP. In 2 years, public external scores 31 out of 119. Then Maldives, 3 most prominent investment projects in Maldives are an upgrade of the international airport that cost around US $830 million, the development of a new population center and bridge near the airport costing around US $400 million, and the relocation of the major port. The World Bank and IMF considered Maldives as a high-risk country in terms of the debt repayment. Maldives has been prepared code of corporate governance incompatible with OECD principles. However, how effectively it is going to function is a matter of observation in future. Maldives ranks 130 out of 180 in CPI with a score of 29 out of 100. The situation of 2019 is worse than 2018. Laos. Studies suggest that US $6 billion cost for the China-Laos railway represents almost 50% of the country's GDP. China says it wants to change Laos from being landlocked to the land-linked one by building a US $5.8 billion railway from Kunming in South China to Vientiane. The serious allegation in Laos is that massive deforestation and mahogany and teaks timbers are sent to China. That's according to Jensen 2017. Laos signed in United Nations Convention Against Corruption on December 10, 2003, and ratified on September 25, 2009. and Laos ranks 130 out of 180 in corruption perception index with the score of 29. It seems somehow stable. Montenegro is the next one. The World Bank estimates that public debt as a share of GDP is to be climbed to 83% in 2018 due to absence of financial adjustment. A motorway linking the port of Bar with Siberia to integrate the Montenegrin transport network with those of other Balkan countries. It is important to note that $1 billion cost for the first phase of the project initially. The cost has risen to $1.1 billion, over 25% of GDP. That's according to Harley et al. 2019. On 3rd October 2019, Montenegro signed the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters at the OECD headquarters in Paris. Montenegro is the 130th jurisdiction to join the convention. Montenegro ranks 66 out of 180 in corruption perception index with the score of 45 out of 100. Next, Mongolia. China Exim Bank agreed in early 2017 to provide financing under its $1 billion line of credit for hydropower and a highway from airport to a capital. Kinder Line 2017 states that if reports from Beijing expects to channel some $30 billion in credit to BRI related projects over the next 5 to 10 years are true, the prospect of a Mongolia default is extremely high in spite of concessional nature of the financing. The corporate governance of Mongolia has been developed by taking into account internally recognized OECD principles of corporate governance, recommendations proposed by ADB and other international organizations, international best practice and experiences. Mongolia ranks 106 out of 180 in corruption perception index with the score of 35 out of 100. Compared to the report of 2018, Mongolia's status of corporate governance is getting worse. Tajikistan. The country is assessed by the IMF and the World Bank to have a high risk of debt distress. Central Asia China gas pipeline, which is called Line D, with a portion goes through Tajikistan, cost $3 billion. And the primary source of corporate governance legislation in Tajikistan includes the joint stock company law, the auditors law, the security market law, and the banking activity law. And Tajikistan ranks 153 out of 180 in corruption perception index with a score of 25 out of 100. Now, Kyrgyzstan. Infrastructure projects are financed by external debt. Public and publicly guaranteed debt by the end of March 2017 is amounted to roughly 65% of GDP. External debt represented is 90% of total. The largest single creditor is China Exim Bank that has provided loans amounting roughly 40% of the country's total external debt. The International Finance Corporation launched the corporate governance project in 2008 to assist joint stock companies in the Kyrgyz Republic to improve their corporate governance. And Kyrgyzstan ranks 126 out of 180 in CPI with a score of 30 out of 100. The situation is better there compared to 2018. And Pakistan, total value of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC project is currently estimated at $62 billion. $33 billion of the amount is expected to be invested in energy project, and 80% of the amount has been financed by China. 3 major road projects are, they have been canceled at the end of 2017. According to media report, Islamabad has already walked out of the $14 billion Daimar Bhasa Dam project that was part of CPEC, citing stringent monetary conditions imposed by Beijing. Daimar Bhasa Dam project with a slated capacity of 4,500 megawatt has been beset by several controversies due to an array of complications. Within Pakistan, the project is politically contentious and considered ecologically perilous given its location in a high seismic zone. The corporate governance regulation of Pakistan can also include provision of sustainability reporting. Pakistan ranks 120 out of 180 in CPI with a score of 32 out of 100 compared to last year. This year's corporate governance status in Pakistan is worse. In addition to these countries, let me briefly talk the status of Sri Lanka and Nepal. It is also very significant to discuss. Sri Lanka has experienced in the commercially failed Hambantota port project. Sri Lanka sold 70% of its stake in the port to a Chinese state-owned firm on a lease for 99 years to pay the debt it owed Beijing. India was the first country Sri Lanka requested for financial help to build Hambantota port. However, the request was rejected as India deemed the project commercially unviable. Currently, Sri Lanka's total sovereign debt stands at about 65 billion, 65 billion. And China only accounts for US $8.5 billion of the total foreign debt, of which Hambantota port is only 1.2 billion US dollar. That's according to Wen Wong, May 2019. Sri Lanka's corporate governance system and the practice have been largely influenced by British system and post-government economic policy. Sri Lanka ranks 89 out of 180 in CPI with a score of 38 out of 100. The corruption perception index of Sri Lanka seems better than Djibouti, Maldives, Laos, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Nepal. Now, Nepal. Nepal and China had signed a framework agreement on BRI on May 12, 2017, valid up to May 12, 2020, subject to renewable, according to Article 5.1 of the agreement paper. The idea of a railway linking China to Nepal has captured imagination since Mao Zedong and King Birendra first mooted the idea in 1973, according to Peters 2019. During President Xi Jinping visit to Nepal in recent past, plans to carry out an extended detailed feasibility study into Nepal-China railway projects were among 20 agreements signed between the two countries. Initial budget for the railway would cost approximately US $3 billion. The 70-kilometer railway line, some suggest to be a game changer, while others term it as vulnerable. The route that climbs from 1,400 meters above sea level to around 4,000 meters goes through the Himalayas. This route, according to the geologist, will be vulnerable to landslide and earthquakes. Moreover, as much as 98% of the route would have to be made up of tunnels and bridges. Steep slopes, complex geographical terrain, and need for a huge investment on tunneling would be a great challenge. An astonishing fact is, passenger trains will even need to carry oxygen, according to Mrigendra Bahadur Karki, as cited in Peter 2019. Wildlife experts argue that the railway route passing through the national parks, two national parks basically, Langtang and Sivapuri, would have environmental threat to the nature and wildlife. Many endangered species, both birds and mammals, will disappear in near future. Ornithologists believe that these two national parks are home to 1/3 of the country's bird species. Nepal signed United Nations Convention Against Corruption on 10th December 2003, ratified it on 23 February 2011. Nepal ranks 113 out of 180 in Corruption Perception Index with a score of 34 out of 100, which is better than the last year's status. So in conclusion, BRI projects definitely focus on economic issues. However, its strategic significance cannot be undermined. China's desire for greater connectivity is apparent. In contrast, America's Indo-Pacific strategies and India-led BIMSTEC regional bloc is somehow perceived to be counter-initiative of BRI. To embrace the highest international standard, it may be wise for the BRI to integrate environment, social and corporate governance consideration into its business practices. Moreover, it is often criticized that infrastructure investment in developing countries usually involve corruption, pollution, and human rights abuses. In a nutshell, three things are suggested. Number one, greater transparency and scrutiny of the project is required. Number two, BRI steering committee is to be formed. And number three, international standard regulatory governance mechanism should be set up to end the bribery and corruption. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitraji. You have presented from the financial point of view. It's exclusive presentations. Thank you so much. And now our the question is in chat box. So all the participants can write the question as well. At last, we will give time for the question. Now, the last presenter, Mr. Vidyapati, he perhaps he has connected. Is he here? Mr.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Okay, welcome back. And
thank you.
So, I'm already for you now. Please. Okay, it's your time.
Thank you, ma'am. There is some technical glitch. Thank you for connecting me again. So in the three divisions, I would like to explain that the history part, we understood how the global health diplomacy has developed in the West and created a good phase of distributing the idea of unification in addressing the health issues. Now we can understand how the China has fought against the coronavirus in its land and how it successfully came out. And I could also take this moment to thank the doctors and the great health workers who dedicated themselves to this sacrifice. I could see that the infrastructure played a major role and the technology played a major role. The tracking system were used in many apps. The Beidou navigation system, which gone globally last month, has also helped the tracking of coronavirus patients when they has been detected, and the contact person associated with that particular patient has been quickly addressed to overcome or to know where the coronavirus is spreading. The micromanagement was high, and they also quarantined the floor in the multi-storage building, and many measures has been taken in order to address these issues, both by technically and also using manpower. Many workers have also involved in manufacturing, mostly producing the masks and other required test kits. This actually helped China to test many patients who are subjected or doubted to be the coronavirus affected cases. And it didn't stop there. We all know the infrastructure is in need, and mask is in high need in throughout the world, and medical supplies is in need, and advice of how to overcome this coronavirus is also in need of the present situation. China also exported the medical experts to the world along with the mass supplies and other medical supplies. Why it is more important? It conveyed a strong message stating that China is there for showing its solidarity and support during this crisis for the countries who are a member of BRI. In this situation, BRI is going to take some more time to regain its strength and also economically, but we could clearly understand the phase of cooperation that countries have. Because of the mutual trust that bilaterally they have with China, China could promote and supply these medical help to these countries. Even it also provided supplies to the non-member countries of BRI. On the other hand, many other countries, including India, have provided many vaccines to the countries So we could overall think that what actually is needed in the present scenario is that joint cooperation of all nations. Post-pandemic, how the health diplomacy can proceed is that the need of infrastructure is being addressed by BRI, the need of technology is being addressed by BRI, and with the cooperation of digital Silk Road, China could also provide the other technical help, such as the tracking of the COVID-19 cases. Likewise, in future pandemic situation or health crisis situation, this technical cooperation can be lent out. So in this case, China is also giving its one part of contribution to the health diplomacy of the world. And till now, we saw the Western side of health diplomacy phase. Maybe in future, Health Silk Road will play a vital role in developing the health situation, majorly in Asia and Africa, and also it may play a vital role in the world. And with this, I would like to conclude saying that if India and China is emerge or cooperate further in the health field, thinking that India is also a major player of health related products and supplies, and also becoming a highest hub and the major hub of the health tourism, it can also join hands with China in some phases in order to promote and establish the infrastructure for the modern health requirements. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and would like to understand more about the post-pandemic health diplomacy with the face of the Health Silk Road. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Vidyapatiji. I think the internet make us disturb a little bit, and yes, health diplomacy, Health Silk Road has become new terms for after this during this pandemic. It will be the new strategy or the system in international relations ahead as well. Now I'd like to go for the last presenter, Dr. Punyam Rakesh Singh. He is a research fellow in Indian Council of World Affairs, and his presentation is on China's Belt and Road Initiative and the US Indo-Pacific Strategy. It seems like the comparative study is here. So Dr. Punyam Rakesh Singh, please have your time. Hello, Dr. Punyam, hello. I think Dr. Punyam Rakesh ji is...
Now you unmute yourself, Rakesh. Now you unmute yourself.
Yes.
Can you hear? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are
Yes,
hearing
you are
you.
audible.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I do have some technical issues, so I hope there will be no disturbance during my presentation. First of all, I would like to thank NICE Kathmandu for giving this opportunity, and I would like to wish all of you good health amidst this pandemic of COVID-19. As a respected chair has read out the topic of my presentation, I will be speaking about two very important contemporary topics which will have a very long-term implications for the world as well as for the countries and the individuals as well, because we keep hearing about China's Belt and Road Initiative, which started in 2013 under the leadership of Chinese President Xi Jinping. And we also now have another strategy called the Indo-Pacific strategy, especially under the US leadership. And we know that there are different takes on Indo-Pacific. The vision may be different from one country to another, but I think we will all agree to the fact that the Indo-Pacific strategy of the US is leading to a direction where the geopolitical and geostrategic competition and to some extent you say differences are escalating over the last few years. And one of the best examples that we have seen as a result of these two clashing strategies, one China's Belt and Road Initiative under the initiative of China, and the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States. These two strategies are leading to some escalations in very sensitive parts of the world, which is called the South China Sea. And it is very important for us to understand the fact that the recent developments in the last few months, or say the last few days, point in the direction of an increasing tension between the two very powerful countries in the world, namely the US and China. And we have just read about the China firing missiles. Some reports say 4, but some others say is two missiles, including one aircraft carrier killer. And firing of these missiles into the South China Sea between the Hainan Island and the Parasan Islands, that shows the level of escalation. Though it was done on the part of China to send a message to the United States after the the flyover by the US spy plane, when China was conducting live fire military drills in the waters along the coast of China. So in the recent time, starting from July and till that, we have so many military drills, joint drills conducted by the Chinese People's Liberation Army. And there are reports about more upcoming such exercises in the South China Sea and East China Sea. And the message, the political message involved in these military exercises is very clear. It is sending a message to the United States and some of its allies that China has the military capabilities and the resolve to deny sea access to these military powers to protect its sovereignty and its maritime interests. That is one very crucial aspect. And because of the firing of missiles by China into the South China Sea, as a response, as a reaction to that, the U.S. Department of Commerce has listed 24 state-owned Chinese enterprises. Under the sanction against these 24 state-owned Chinese enterprises will have very important, very strong impact on the China-initiated Belt and Road Initiative. And it is because many of these state-owned enterprises from China are playing very crucial role in the construction of various projects across the world. And one of them is the China Communication Construction Company and many of its subsidiaries. Among these 24 companies enlisted by the U.S. Department of Commerce for putting sanction on them. And there is also talk about the visa restriction relating to some Chinese officers who are closely related to the military and some such fields. So as part of this presentation, what I would like to share with the participants is that we need to go back to the July 2019 defense white paper issued by the People's Republic of China entitled China's National Defense in the New Era. And I find that this white paper, the latest white paper issued by the government of the People's Republic of China, is very important to understand the changing dynamics of the regional and global order. So in this paper, China has clearly mentioned that US is strengthening its alliance in the Asia Pacific. And there is more deployment of forward deployment of military personnel as well as assets. And this has been conceived by China as part of the larger strategy to contain the rise of China under the Indo-Pacific strategy. And also, it is very important that in that document, defense white paper, China has clearly said that China's armed forces are striving to keep in alignment with and contribute to the general strategies of the Communist Party of China and the country. And these words are very meaningful from my understanding, because when China is talking about implementing Belt and Road Initiative projects across the world, there is a tendency, or you can say a simultaneous development on the front of military reforms and modernization, which has been going on for decades, I would say, but that there is a sudden change in the pace, I would say, a faster pace under the leadership of Xi Jinping. And we all know that the documents dealing with the Chinese national defense and also the analysis done by many experts across the world, they are talking about China's emphasis on military modernization, mechanization, informationization, and also, to build a world-class military power by the mid of this century, 21st century. So the emphasis on combat capability and also the modernization in many, fields, that shows that China is also committed to build China into a militarily very powerful country. And that has something to do with the Belt and Road Initiative, because when we are talking about this white paper, there is also a clear, announcement on the part of Beijing that China will be working towards, protecting its missions and interests overseas. So from near seas defenses to the protection of its interests and missions on the far seas. So from near seas to the far seas, operations and operations of various kinds in the on the far seas has to be done, with some major changes in its tactical and strategic thinking on the part of the Chinese military, and also the building of capabilities. So in the recent time, we have heard about civilian military integration programs going on in China, and one of the interesting development which has very close connection with the maritime dimension of China's Belt and Road Initiative, and also the maritime ambition of China to become a world-class blue water navy. There is a very close connection between these two. So starting from August 2017, China has a logistic base in Djibouti, and China is said to be working on other possible logistic bases, and we keep hearing about border port and other such arrangements, logistic exchange agreements. One is China has signed with Singapore. So all these developments in the last few years clearly shows that China is working towards expansion of its military assets and areas of operation, not only in the Western Pacific, but also in the Indian Ocean and beyond. And that gives the impression that China's Belt and Road Initiative will surely work hand in hand with its military modernization and reforms, so that its operational capabilities and its technological advancements can be, a contributing factor to the realization of its Belt and Road Initiative, and also protection of these various assets across the world from, different kinds of security threats. And after discussing this document, the white paper of China's national defense, I would like to come to the free and open Indo-Pacific, the document issued by the US in November 2019. And this is very interesting because the first line in the document talks about, says that the US is and always will be an Indo-Pacific nation. And this line is very, very, very important for our understanding because US being an Indo-Pacific nation has to be there and is there. And in the recent time, under the leadership of US President Donald Trump, there is a kind of a reassurance to some of these Asian countries, especially its allies and partners. It is also clearly mentioned in this document that US will be working closely with the US allies and also the partners to ensure that the values and principles to continue and promote the international order where there is freedom, openness, equality, transparency, etc. and etc. But what is very interesting is that when US is talking about its growing competition with the China and also with Russia, there is a line where it is mentioned in this particular document that there is a growing competition between free and repressive vision of the future international order. So this growing competition between the free and the repressive visions of the future international order has an ideological aspect to it. And this ideological aspect has something to do with the recent development as far as Quad is concerned, and the quadrilateral arrangement among the US, Japan, Australia, and India. Because we all know that India has a very very interesting vision on Indo-Pacific vision. India believes in free and open, inclusive Indo-Pacific vision. There is no, coalition formation, alliance formation against any party, which has been clearly stated by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his keynote speech delivered at Shangri-La. So this first ministerial level meeting among these 4 Quad countries held in New York last year, September last year. This is a very interesting development as far as Indo-Pacific strategy of the United Nations is concerned. Why I'm saying this is because we see so many logistic exchange agreements signed among these countries, between India and US, between India and Japan, between India and Australia. I mean, some agreements have already been signed, and some are works in progress. So negotiation continues for some of these, logistic exchanges, so that the militaries from these countries can coordinate and can work together for various challenges and security threats in the region. So these are the aspects which have some close connections with the evolving regional and global order, because when China is talking about sea access denial along its coast by conducting so many military drills from its eastern sea, East China Sea to South China Sea, this long stretch of Chinese coast is now having different military drills, ongoing military drills, and I think that it will continue. And the message has been there for a long time, because China has been, as many experts keep saying, that China has been working on enhancing its sea access and area denial capabilities to keep the US off from the second island chain. And interestingly, also experts who are closely following the military and military and technological developments in China, that US is increasingly facing many challenges with China modernizing its military, and their assets in the possession of Beijing, which will threaten US deployment, forward deployment in the Western Pacific up to Guam. So given the fact that China's military modernization is paying paying Beijing to strengthen its military capability towards becoming a world-class force by the middle of the century, the tension between these two major powers, along with some of the US allies in the region, is very much visible, and that is the reason why the US reassurance and the deployment of its nuclear carrier strike group, frequent freedom of navigation operations, freedom of overflight, etc., in the sensitive region in the South China Sea is causing so much news in the past few years. And China, after the establishment of these artificial islands, we all know that China has constructed military assets, including runways, I think 3 of them. And these artificial islands located in the South China Sea are going to play an important role in the regional security dynamics. And I would say that the Chinese military thinkers would be trying to, use these artificial islands as a kind of, unsinkable aircraft carriers. And if we connect this dot with other dots, such as the civilian military integration programs, which make civilian semi-submersible vehicles turn into, helipads, helicopter carriers for operations on the far seas, and also other, dynamics where China is trying to make the civilian civilian vessels in sync with the military capability. So this integration between the civil and military, assets is happening, and I think that this is one of the focus area for Beijing at the moment, and this is to make sure that China's overseas interests and maritime interests on the far seas can be taken care of, in the coming days. So that is that is one aspect that I would like to share. We know that in the last Belt and Road Initiative Forum meeting held in Beijing in 2019, there were some major changes in the language used by Beijing. So if we read the joint communique issue on the occasion of this second Belt and Road Initiative Forum for International Cooperation, we come across many interesting terms, such as high quality Belt and Road Initiative, extensive consultation, joint effort, share and mutual benefits, green, open, clean Belt and Road Initiative, reliable, resilient, affordable, accessible. All these kind of terms were incorporated in this joint communique issue in April 2019. And this reflects that China is a student and it keeps learning. And China is responsive to the cries and voices and debates going on across the world over Belt and Road Initiative. When it comes to implementation, there may be a very different dynamics altogether. But the documents clearly reflect that China is listening to the debates and discussions over Belt and Road Initiative. So If I get some more minutes to conclude my presentation, briefly, what I would like to say about the China-initiated Belt and Road Initiative and the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy is that there is a clear picture of a clash of interest between these two strategies. There is a clash of interest between these two countries in a region, and that is visible clearly in the South China Sea and in the Western Pacific region at the moment. And not only the maritime dimension, even the overland connectivity projects undertaken by China under the Belt and Road Initiative across Asia, Africa, and to some extent in Latin America, and also in Europe. These are, clearly giving us this, feel that US and China are having a kind of a dialogue covertly and overtly, and there are differences. And these two countries are not able to resolve many of these differences, and that is reflected in their actions and also the rhetorics from the leaders from both the countries. And we clearly see that trade, technology, Taiwan, and South China Sea, these treaties and South China Sea are at the center stage of this China-US, competition. And before I conclude, I would like to again quote a line from the document on the Indo-Pacific strategy issued by the US government. In that document, it is mentioned that competition is not conflict. Competition is not, however, conflict, but there is a competition going on between US and China. And also, it is widely known that US is facing both China and Russia in all the dimensions. So the nuclear posture review, the last nuclear posture review issued by the US government, that also clearly states that US is facing two major powers, Russia and China. And these dynamics will continue to inform our understanding of the world and our day-to-day life in various aspects, consciously or unconsciously. The competition between these powers will continue to shape the international politics and also the policies in our domestic spheres as well. So thank you so much, Nice, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Sir, for conducting this program with patience and for your kind cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Punyam, for your presentation. Actually, itself for time, so whatever in limited time you have presented your thoughtful presentation. Thank you very much. I should go for the questions posted in the chat box. First of all, Mr. Mitra Paudel from Anish Wagle. Who are the major financial institutions for connectivity project within DRI? Apart from 8+12 country situations, are there any other countries that may face possible debt distress in future? This is for Mr. Mitra Paudel. Mitra Paudel, would you like to respond to this question?
Okay, thank you. So who are the major financial institutions, right, for connectivity project within PRI? That's the first part. And the second part was like the country situation, who may have the situation. Okay, I mean, Yes, as far as the financial institutions for the connectivity projects within BRI is concerned, there are, let's say, the China Development Bank consists of 400 projects in 37 economies, and that worth 110 billion, US dollar. And similarly, ICBC, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, having 212 projects with 67 billion US dollar. And similarly, Bank of China placed US dollar 100 billion for the period 2016-18. China Exim Bank also 1,000 projects in 49 economies worth US dollar 80 billion. I mean, these are major, financial institutions according to OECD Business and Finance Outlook 2018. And are there other situations? There is an article written by Horley et al. 2019 that assesses the likelihood of debt problem in the 68 countries identified in the BRI, potential BRI borrowers, which are categorized into basically 4.
Maybe internet interruption.
24 countries. So this may have the problem, and there are 23 countries are basically perceived to be the debt distress. 23 countries, 3 countries in South and South Asia, like Mongolia, Cambodia, Laos. 7 countries in Central and South Asia, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Kazakhstan, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tajikistan. 7 countries in Middle East, and 6 countries in Europe and Eurasia. I mean, these are perceived to be the possible debt distress. I think I answered this question.
Thank you, Mitraji. Maybe most of the questions is for you, and the latter questions are also for you, as you summarize the question yourself in the chat box.
Okay, yes.
What is your observation? Please answer for this question as well.
Okay, yeah, there was a question from Virat Shrestha, who is also associated with Kathmandu University and Little Angels, and is brand consultant. He asks me the question of what is the observation on Chinese debt in Africa and their status of corporate governance. Well, I mean, Chinese debt in Africa is enormous. Many African countries rely on China for financial assistance. There are basically, 5 countries, I would say. Angola, 25 billion current Chinese debt, 25 billion US dollar. Ethiopia, 135 billion. Kenya, 7.9 billion. Congo, 7.3 billion, and North Sudan, 6.4 billion. So these huge Chinese, debt in these countries. And if you see the status, the latest status of the CPI index and the score of, according to Transparency International, Angola, the CPI score is 26 out of 100. Ethiopia 37, Kenya 28, Congo 19, North Sudan 16. Meaning, except Ethiopia, corruption perception is higher in other African countries. It shows the lack of corporate governance practice in those countries. And there was another question from same participant, that what are the conditions in Bangladesh and Myanmar according to your observation? I mean, Bangladesh also, according to report, projects in Bangladesh are facing serious opposition as well. Because it cites the blacklisting of the China Harbor Engineering Company for offering bribes to the government official in Bangladesh. The company was hired to expand the Dhaka-Sylhet highway. The study notes and adds that the cost, especially of the road contracts, quoted by the Chinese are 5 to 10 times cost to that in China, and more than 10 to 15 times in that in India. So this, along with the wider condition imposed by China, is causing, concern in Bangladesh. And the situation of the corporate governance in Bangladesh is also not encouraging. According to 2019 report, it ranks 146 out of 180 in CPI, and the score is 26. And Myanmar and China signed an agreement to establish the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, which is CMEC, a year ago as part of BRI Global Infrastructure Initiative. Due to military and ethnic armed conflict there, the corridor has been facing problems. Railways, new railways, trade zones, and other major infrastructure projects are part of the initiative. And out of 38 projects, CMEC, proposed by China for CMEC, Myanmar government has approved 9. And when you see the corporate governance status in Myanmar, Myanmar ranks 100.
Hello, Mitra ji. Hello. Are you there? Hello. I think the network is disrupted with the Mitra ji as well. Okay. Am I audible to all? Hello?
Now, yes.
Yes. Have you finished the answer? I think
yes, I did.
A little bit disrupt.
Okay.
Okay. Another question, I think it's for you from Nikhila Shrestha, that how can Nepal be benefited from the Belt and Road Initiative?
Well, I mean, this is a good question. But I mean, for Nepal, let's say what I believe is that in Nepal, road connectivity should be given first priority, then expensive railway connectivity, first thing. Second, priority should be in establishing industrial parks and exploring suitable places for semi-industrialization, harnessing our core competencies. 2. 3, Chinese investment should focus on mega projects, such as mega hydropower, world-class university outside Kathmandu, smart cities for housing projects, but not competing with the local, investors. And another is like China should not invest on sensitive sectors such as hospital, hotel, restaurant in Kathmandu, college and telecommunications. 5th, Chinese investment should not hurt and displace small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, involved in, for example, wood and metal carving, pottery, and other traditional handicraft business. And another is like Chinese investment should not be involved in land acquisition, and Chinese FDI can be appropriate in manufacturing the industries such as umbrella making, bicycle, motorcycle making, or even development of the assembly line for the automobile and others. But in the same time, it has to consider the climate change and ecological balance. They are major issues. And polluting industries that have adverse effect on our ecology should not be chosen. So I think if Nepal carefully look at these things, then Nepal can be benefited from BRI. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mitraji. Yeah, another question from the Nicholas Trust again is perhaps he's asking for the Nepal, but I think this question, though excluding the Nepal, this question can be responded by Dr. Punyam Rakesh ji. Either BRI or Indo-Pacific is more benefiting, or why they are? How could we say it's a benefiting to the different countries like Nepal and other countries as well? Would you like to respond on this questions?
Me?
No, Mr. Dr. Punyam Rakesh.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Punyam Rakesh ji. I think he is
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear? Can you hear?
Yes. I'm asking that how can the jaws either BRI or Indo-Pacific is beneficial for different countries like Nepal and
Yes,
others?
yes. I would like to say that this is a very good question, but it will be little early for us to say that either of these two or both are going to be beneficial for other countries. Definitely, there will be positive outcomes from both BRI and Indo-Pacific strategy, no doubt about it. But the cost to be incurred by especially the small and medium countries, I would say small powers who are economically and militarily not comparable to these giants like the US, China, Russia, etc. They will also incur some costs, and that is quite visible in the sense that foreign policy making is a very troublesome and complex affairs, and because of Belt and Road Initiative, we see tension in South Asia, especially between Pakistan and India, and also with China to some extent. India has not joined Belt and Road Initiative for it, and also over the issue of Nepal joining the Belt and Road Initiative initiated by China to construct the Trans-Himalayan multidimensional connectivity projects and other projects in Nepal. We see the bilateral relationship between India and Nepal has been to some extent, mired in controversies because of the close relationship between Nepal and China. And similarly, for many other countries, say Nepal, not only Nepal, Myanmar, Pakistan, and any other countries who have joined BRI willingly, they are also facing the issue of the environmental impact of various mega projects. They are also concerned about the debt trap which is there. US is very vocal about US and some other countries are very vocal about the predatory financial financial investment, financial operations conducted by many Chinese state-owned enterprises to construct various projects under BRI framework. And however, I would like to add this point that we know that there is a plurality of thoughts and different school of thoughts, and we cannot be free from this fact that there will be alternative narratives, alternative discourses. And when we talk about BRI, as per the topic, we have to discuss the US Indo-Pacific strategy and also the Indo-Pacific strategy or the visions of ASEAN countries, of India, of South Korea, of Japan, and others. So how do these different countries perceive Indo-Pacific strategy of the US and the Belt and Road Initiative led by, initiative by China? So we see an alternative. As I cannot be, saying, the US strategy is right and is going to pay more than BRI. it is little early for us to say that, but US is very vocal about the wrongful methods and the modalities used by many Chinese companies to construct various projects under Belt and Road Initiative. And that is one key reason why many countries, including Nepal, Myanmar, and some others in Africa, they have tried to bring in other players into the construction projects undertaken by, undertaken under the Belt and Road Initiative. But the recent development in Myanmar, I would like to say, is the new Yangon City project, which is supposed to be constructed by the China Communications Construction Company, which is now one of the enlisted Chinese company in the U.S. Department of by the U.S. Department of Commerce. So many of these constructions are said to be causing corruption, opaqueness, the corporate social responsibilities, especially environmental, social, and health impacts of these projects. These are very much debated, not only in our neighboring countries, but also in Africa and in other European countries as well. So, as I mentioned during my discussion, whether China will be sticking to the words which is there in the joint communique of the Leaders Roundtable held in Beijing last year, or China will continue to follow the earlier model. That is a big question. And I personally would like to say that China cannot follow the earlier model of implementing projects, because this debate and this discussion is ongoing, and many countries would like to get investment, because many countries in South Asia and elsewhere need investment for infrastructure development, for better transport, for railways, for ports, for various other things. But this investment should be viable. I mean, this project should be viable. It should not cause financial burden to the host country, and it should be mutually beneficial. And the environmental and health impacts of such projects for various connectivity, projects under BRI should not be at the cost of the people living there, the environment, ecology. So I would say that it is good for us, for the world, that there is a Indo-Pacific strategy of the US when China is talking about Belt and Road Initiative, because we need to have two different models of development, or two models of international order, whether it's repressive or free. One has to decide it. But in the course of our existence, what we need is to deliver the requirements of the various countries, and to ensure that no power becomes hegemonic to the extent of dominating and silencing the interests of other weaker powers in in the system. So that way, U.S. Pacific strategy is Indo-Pacific strategy is given an alternative to the model that China has initiated. So it is good. So I would say that in the long run, if both the strategies are working side by side, then many countries will be able to, find the good things and then manage the affairs. But what is very difficult here is the foreign policy making. So if it is either you are with us or with other, then this is going to be a very tough game. That's why geopolitical competition between the US and China in the region is going to be a tough environment for many weaker powers. I will say that. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, of course, competitions can give benefits as well.
Yes.
Yes, and next question is for Vidyapatiji. How can the health diplomacy be beneficial for other countries? Chinese health diplomacy. How can Chinese health diplomacy be beneficial for other countries? Hello,
Yes.
Mr. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Health diplomacy, I could see that China's health diplomacy will benefit countries by the development of infrastructure. It could, like enhance the roadways and driveways that could give more connectivity to the regions and the countries that China has connected with. And it can provide the technology that it has. The technology it's already is, the Beidou is global now. And with the tracking technologies for the tracking apps, it can provide the tracking apps to the countries so that these technologies could help to trace people when they are moving from cities to cities in the countries. Previously, Chinese workers were quarantined during the epidemic in China, and later they have been allowed for like the travel inside the countries for doing the PRA projects. Likewise, the transaction in the upcoming days or months, possibly for a year, will be a very challenging one. For future, it will also be required to build a modern health system for which the technologies will play a major role. The technology will play a vital role in managing the health of a country. So if we build a good healthy environment around the place, then we could ensure that the place they trade with will be also free from the disease, and also it will help other countries to like get the better infrastructure. In this way, China may help countries to know the transfer of technology and the transfer of knowledge for treating the virus, like the traditional Chinese medicine and the combination of Western medicine. Likewise, there are many options that they could exchange further. And globally, it has been done through the World Health Organization, and the contributions are higher from many countries. And likewise, this contribution is to be focused from China, so that like countries who are connected through BRA with China will benefit more.
Yeah, thank you, Vidyapati. Of course, though it's a health issue seems out of the political matter, it can fulfill the political mission as well. However, rather than political missions, the health diplomacy or health assistance to other countries is basically based on the humanity concerned and all those things. You're right. Thank you very much for your concern, for your answer, response. And last question for Sunil Mishra. As you mentioned in the Belt and Road Initiative that there are some dissimilar practices in the world as you perceive from different literatures. I would like to ask, what were the reasons for China to practice such dissimilar projects in Belt and Road Initiative in the world, as you mentioned, of establishing the military base in those in an African country? Would you like to clarify more on this regard, Mr.
Thank you
Sunil?
so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your question. And I would say that going through different projects and needs of the nations, China opt to go with different needs of other countries. And in that regard, to meet all those needs, it started with dissimilar practices. There are some similar practices that could be implemented in all the countries, but there are some basic needs. For example, include within the BRI project. For instance, Pakistan has need of good schools for quality education, and while coming one-to-one in BRI project, Pakistan proposed to China to build schools, and China took it in a positive way to reach to the people in the ground level. So it's a good opportunity for China to build up a school under BRI project so that it can reach to the people in the ground level. and it will strengthen the Chinese aspects in Pakistan, which will be helpful for China to reap more benefits in the days to come under people-to-people connectivity. And it will establish goodwill of China in Pakistani citizens. So in that context, China is practicing some dissimilar practices with other countries as per the need of that country. And talking about military base in Djibouti, China is claiming that we established our military base in Djibouti in order to provide security to our Chinese nationals, because it has been observed that Chinese nationals have been attacked in African countries as well as in Pakistan also. Although China and Pakistan are having a very good and sound relationship under CPAC, but Chinese have been attacked and Chinese have been kidnapped in Pakistan also and in Africa also. So in order to provide security to their nationals, China has established military base in Djibouti. So finally, I would conclude that the needs of all the nations and the national interests of all the countries vary. So in order to meet those national interests under or through BRI project, China is proposing to reach all the countries with their varied needs. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Sunilji, for your proper observations regarding the need of the particular countries. Of course, Belt and Road Initiative has, as it has 5 major targets to meet, and similarly at the same time, it has different projects as per the need of the country, particular host country. So now I think we are at the end of our session. Thank you very much to all presenters and meaningful presentations. And thank you to all the participants who asked questions to our participants. And we all take our time properly. I mean, we do not exceed our times. So thank you for that as well. So thank you for NICE and WPC and IICE and WPC for this international conference. It's very useful conference for all of us. I'd like to end this session here. Thank you all. We'll see you in other meeting as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Saranya, to you. Saranya.
Distinguished Chair, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this session, it's my great honor to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of NICE and WPC, I would like to express our gratitude and sincere thanks to Dr. Lila Nyaichyai for accepting our request to chair the session. Our sincere thanks goes to all the speakers for delivering such a comprehensive and insightful presentation. We are honored to have all the speakers with us here today. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. Last but not the least, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our audience who participated in the webinar and those who are watching us live. We are truly honored to have you all with us this morning and hope to stay connected with you in future as well. I request all of you kindly join us for the next session.